so much of the work in this show, you know, was things that you had done previously, like I'm thinking of, you know, the albums and things that you then had to make kind of for the exhibition and produce for it. And one of the amazing things to me working on this project with you is just how involved you are in the kind of creative side of really minute details and really big ideas at once. And for anybody who has ever worked with Virgil, you know that there's WhatsApp threads, and the WhatsApps are like ding, 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 ding. They like are going constantly, and it's incredible for me to think about all of the projects that you have your hands in and how you're sort of showing that level of engagement and involvement with each one of those. And I wonder, one of the things that's interesting in this exhibition, I'm thinking especially of the array of air, the shoe display, is the way that you're showing a lot of sort of experiments and prototypes and things that maybe didn't work out, or ideas you tested out in the studio, and then things that went to mass market and that sort of were finished. And I wonder, and I think also in the book, which is here, which is an amazing book that, you know, Michael and Virgil made to accompany this exhibition, you know, it's like this kind of archive, like you get a sense of that like iterative non-stopness of your work and your creativity with all of these kind of references. And I wonder just a little bit if you could sort of talk about some of the ways that you sought to have that kind of energy of prototyping and like self-critique and the kind of engine of the creative process, which you so much embody, and how you sought to kind of make that present in the exhibition.
You could start.
I mean, the thing that Virgil, you know, touched on a minute ago was just this generosity that you have, Virgil, about, you know, you've said various things like leaving the door open behind you to let other people in, but I think, you know, to not have perfect finished things kind of gives people an entry point, like, hey, this is how this thing was made. And even you talk about this book as being like the cheat codes for how to become a contemporary fashion designer or a creative, and like leaving all those breadcrumbs out there, I think is really unique and again, super generous, and not about like everything being totally perfect and boxed up and tied with a bow. Like showing the process is, I think kind of helps with that, helps give people a way in. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. Like the macro view, it's like, in my mind, you know, this is my such a personal feeling that, you know, Black art isn't in a place of access to not have the door open. You know, in my space, you know, I use the word art to sort of talk about the arts, you know, whatever you want to call it. But it only sits right with me philosophically that it's a prism, you know, for other aspects to go through. So, you know, I can make a book that's like, you know, this book basically looks like an art book. It's one color sans serif font. It says Abloh, you know, and I put it there, and it's sort of like stake in the ground, like, don't talk to me, you know, like that's what artist books.
Or at first you had a tombstone, like Virgil is dead.
Yeah, it was like this.
In a museum now.
You know, it was sort of like, the book was supposed to sit like that. You know, like, it's very, obviously, this is like a good education, or from what I've seen through discovery, you know, art history, contemporary art, moving in those scenes, knowing how those walls are built. It's like, I could easily have packaged up all this work into like a book that's like only finished work, all super perfect, has the right font. It like mandates that this is a canon, and like don't see yourself in it. You know, like that's why I said like the book isn't. That's why it says artwork on it. It takes the idea of a book in itself and literally like leaves open sort of like data, because again, the work, like don't look at the exhibit and be like tricked into this logic that the work is only the work. It's only supposed to sit in this white space. It's this like logic that hovers around it and all the pieces in between. That's the work. That's where artist comes from, fashion designer or architect or whatever's up there. You know, like that, and the idea, that's why I'm so thankful to the ICA and all these institutions that see contemporary art as a really contemporary practice, and see the people that are in the city of Boston or in Atlanta or in Chicago that they have like a different point of view on seeing themselves inside an institution, these like great buildings and these civic centers, you know, that is literally for people, but programmed in a certain way. You know, there's a 17-year-old kid who loves art but would never even consider, so it's a partnership. You know, this is radical in my mind. And that's why my practice, you know, Michael had the uphill battle of like encapsulating all this like long-winded talking that I'm doing into a formalized exhibit. And so I keep harping on the reason why, you know, figures of speech exist. It's like the first in my lineage of like introducing these ideas to the world separate from the different industries that they live in.
And even the book